Hello and welcome back to the world's least efficient vehicles. I'm your host, Niall Livesey, and we have been doing some very inefficient vehicles over the past couple weeks here on Test Drive. Case in point, this 2022 Ford Bronco 4-door WIldtrak. This is not a fuel-efficient vehicle, but let's be honest, folks. You're not buying this because you want to hug trees. This, my friends, is the rebirth of a Ford icon, at least according to Ford. It has been quite a while that I have been looking forward to driving this. We drove the Bronco Sport a couple months back, and now we're in the big boy. This is really the big boy. 4-door version of the Bronco. This is the WIldtrak top-end hardcore off-road mode. We've got it all here. Now we're going to be going over what you need to know about the Ford Bronco, why you might be interested in it, and pretty much all the technical details that you can fit in a short video like this. Now, how have we gotten to the Bronco? Broncos of generations past were basically built off the Ford F-150 platform. So really, the successor to the Ford Bronco is the Expedition, because that is an F-150 with more seats in it. This, though, is a mid-size off-road SUV built on the same platform that the Ford Ranger comes on. So it is technically a smaller vehicle, but man, look at this thing. I'm standing next to it. It's monstrous. This thing is huge. So yeah, I guess it is technically a smaller vehicle than it was before, but my God, this thing is massive. There are a couple changes coming for 2022. Because of the pandemic and shortages when it comes to semiconductors, not everybody has gotten their 2021s, and there might be some issue for you out there who have bought or at least pre-ordered a 2021 Bronco in specific colors. Something like the Antimatter Blue. It's apparently being axed for 2022. Now they've added a couple new paint choices, so maybe you'll find something you like better, but paint has basically changed. And then this bumper, this is an upgraded steel bumper that we have on the front here, which removes the fog lights. That is now kind of changed up a little bit. Same bumper, it just comes on different trims. I believe you can get it on any trim now. So just really small changes, more or less a carryover for 2022. Now, when you go with the WIldtrak, you only get the 2.7-liter twin-turbo V6 engine. That produces 330 horsepower with premium fuel, 415 pound-feet of torque, again with premium. If you're using regular, it's 315 horsepower, which is still really good, and 410 pound-feet of torque, so you're not losing out much, saving on gas. And here in Montreal, here in Quebec, the difference between a regular and premium is about 25 cents, so you're much better off, unless you really want that performance, just stick with the regular. Now this also comes with Ford's 10-speed automatic, but if you go with the 2.3-liter engine that comes on this, you can get the 7-speed manual transmission. So there are some options there, and according to some sources, about 15% of the Broncos, at least pre-ordered, were configured with a manual transmission. So why would you consider the WIldtrak? Again, this is the top end, most off-road, most hardcore. You know, maybe you're going into the sand or some sort of dune racing, things like that. This might be the option for you, as the Badlands trim still exists. It's sort of on the same page. Technically, when you're configuring it, this is above it, but in Ford's original press documentation, they're kind of side by side. So anyway, you're getting quite a bit of off-road kit with this. It comes with the Sasquatch package, includes 35-inch tires, 7 goes over any type of terrain, the GOAT mode system. They really could have just called it goes over any terrain, but what do I know? I don't know how to spell. And again, that 2.7-liter engine with the hard top roof. Now, again, if you're buying one of these or if you're trying to find one, the hard tops might be a little hard to find because they have been recalled. So this one's got it, and honestly the ones that I see on the road still have it too, so either they've been fixed or people just don't want to take them in and have them repaired, because there's some squeaking apparently that's been noticed, and I can't really tell. We'll talk about it a little bit on the road test, but compared to something like the direct competitor, the Jeep Wrangler, I don't really notice a difference between the two vehicles. Now the tires on here are Goodyear territory. They are 315/70 R17s. They are monstrous tires, huge tires on this, good for off-roading. But as I mentioned, since I've been doing pretty much on-road stuff, it's actually worked out surprisingly well. It's pretty comfortable, and the overall grip on this is good. Now, some of the other things that you get with the Sasquatch package include a 11.5-inch ground clearance. That could be fantastically important if you actually are taking this off-road. You have better approach and exit angles. You have 33.5-inch water fording capabilities with this, and you have front and rear locking differentials, along with the ability to use what Ford calls trail turn assist, which essentially uses torque vectoring to turn one of the rear wheels off so that you can get a slightly better turn. Now, if you're in two-wheel drive mode like we are pretty much all the time here with this vehicle, the turning radius is actually pretty decent. But if you do put it into four-wheel drive mode, obviously the front wheels will turn a little bit less. So having that in the trail mode might be helpful if you really do plan on taking this off-road. Now look, it is clear that Ford is targeting the Jeep Wrangler. It makes sense. This is the direct competitor, despite the fact that I don't really think the Bronco ever was, because this is pretty fundamentally different from what the Broncos of generations past had to offer. But in today's market, the Wrangler is one of the most popular off-road vehicles you can buy. Now, you can also argue that maybe something like the Land Rover Defender that we drove not too long ago is a competitor as well. Considering this is about $70,000, Land Rover Defender, as we had it, was about $90,000 Canadian. It's close, so I can see somebody maybe optioning slightly less features on their Defender and going with the Bronco instead, but we're going to stick with the Wrangler for now. Now, with the Wrangler, you can get a number of engine choices. The 3.6-liter Pentastar comes standard. That also comes with the manual transmission as standard on the Rubicon 4-door. So that would be the Wrangler Unlimited. Now, if you were to option it pretty much the same way, obviously you can't get configurations to be the same because Ford offers different things and Mopar offers different things. But if you're looking for more or less the same sort of off-road capabilities with similar features and options, the Wrangler comes out to about $74,000. So you're looking at about $5,000 more to go with the Jeep. So what's the difference? Well, at least with the Ford, you're getting quite a bit more, and it's quite a bit less. 360-degree cameras, the bigger 12-inch screen on the inside, mirrors on the body of the vehicle instead of on the doors. So if you actually do take the doors off, you don't have to buy extra accessories to have mirrors. There's also 200 factory-approved accessories that go on the Bronco, giving you quite a bit of customization if you really do outdoorsy stuff. You want to use this for more than just getting groceries. But it's not just accessories, it's the way that Ford engineered this vehicle. They thought about some of the ways that people might need to use this out in the wilderness. So for example, we have frameless windows on the doors. Why is that important? If you want to put the doors in the trunk, you want to take the doors off and go without them, you don't have this frame on the top that's not going to fit in the back. You put the windows down, you slide it into the trunk area. There's also an easy grip place to be able to hold onto the doors as you're removing them. So again, small little things like that Ford thought about to make sure that it's easier to get your equipment off or on the vehicle. And that's one of the things I just never understood about any sort of, I don't know, outdoorsy type of thing. Why make it difficult? Why do some people think that the harder it is to do something, the more manly it is, or the more fun you're going to have? If it's easier, it's going to mean you can get to doing the fun stuff faster. So all of this stuff just makes it so much better to be able to get into the action. We also have, again, the trail turn assist, which I talked about. It's torque vectoring on the rear wheels. There's also trail one pedal driving. If you've driven an electric car, some of them, you have the ability to essentially not use the brake pedal. The accelerator will use both braking and gas, or going forward motion, allowing you to let off that accelerator pedal to slow the vehicle down. You can do that with this. There's also a crawl mode if you go with the manual transmission, and we also have the trail driving assist, which is basically cruise control on this for very slow speeds when you're on trail. So there's a lot of outdoor oriented things, a lot of trail oriented things that come with this. And it doesn't end there, because it also includes trail maps, not just your regular maps that you have here for the roads, but there are also maps built in for specific trails. We don't have any here in Quebec, so I can't test any of them, but it's topographical map data, so you can actually see where you are off the road, so you can get to your destination or maybe get out of trouble if you've gotten stuck somewhere. And again, those 360-degree cameras can come in handy, because with the Jeep Wrangler, you can option a front camera, and that's it. Now, Ford says that they used digital scans of the first generation Bronco to design this one. Some things on the inside, like the instrument panel, apparently are also inspired by the first generation Bronco. I gotta say, it looks fantastic. I get a lot of looks from people. People are checking this thing out. Probably mostly because there aren't that many of them on the road, just because it has been so hard for Ford to get these produced, to get them out to consumers because of all the issues going on with the coronavirus pandemic. But when you see one, it is pretty special. So I do like it. I love the look of this thing. I just think it looks great. Personally, I would not go for this trim only because I don't do off-roading. I would absolutely go for one of the lower trims. It's a little bit more luxury oriented. But as I mentioned, when I'm on the road, when I'm driving this thing, you don't feel like you're driving a rugged off-roader that's just bumping and hitting every pothole and everything is felt through the body of the vehicle. The road mannerisms on this, very, very good. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we go on our road test. I want to go now and talk about it. We'll talk about the interior, how the interior feels, the layout and everything like that as we take it on our road test, and go over everything else you need to know if you're in the market for the new Ford Bronco. Well, folks, before we even get into the drive, before we get into our fuel economy, because GoPro makes such a garbage product, we're going to talk about the interior first. You know why? Because I have a GoPro Hero 8, and it's not that old, and the batteries are always dead. Always dead, because this product is poop. And thankfully, my Ford Bronco here comes prepared because there is a USB port right where I put my camera. It's meant for action cameras or phones or anything. There's actually an accessory tray on the top here. You can add an accessory mounting point to be able to put things like action cameras or phones or microphones, anything, a whole suite of equipment, whatever you want to do, it's right there, and then you can charge it with both USB-A and USB-C. So thank you, good stuff there from Ford. You saved the day because GoPro. So let's talk about the fuel economy though. We are going to probably surprise you a little bit here. The fuel economy on this, we completed our 100 kilometer test loop in 12.8 liters per 100 kilometers. That was in two-wheel drive mode. That was in eco mode. There is an eco mode, believe it or not. I don't know if it really helps. So quite a bit on our test loop. How does that compare though? Well, we did the Rubicon two-door, the Wrangler Rubicon two-door, and that completed our test loop in 11.7 liters. Now, it's a two-door, makes sense. That was in the summer, and we did do it with two-wheel drive mode. Now, I also drove the Sahara Unlimited. That's a four-door, not the full off-road kit, so smaller tires, a little bit better on the road. That completed our test loop in 9.9 liters per 100 kilometers. So, yeah, this is not fuel efficient. I think we'd really have to take both vehicles more or less side by side, do the test loop at the same time, make sure everything is the same. But so far, I mean, I have not seen less than 12 liters per 100 kilometers on this, and I have done a considerable amount of highway driving. It's almost all highway, and it's still pretty high up there. So you're not buying this for fuel efficiency, that is for sure. And this thing is so big. I mean, it feels heavy. There's a lot of vehicles we've talked about, and, you know, I say, oh yeah, you know, like it really does feel heavy. It feels like a tank, but this thing legitimately feels like a military vehicle. It's so heavy. Just driving around, and you can feel that it is a behemoth of an SUV. So it's heavy, the engine is well powered, but there's so much weight on it. It's not super aerodynamic, right? We're looking at basically a giant shoebox with wheels. So yeah, you're getting the fuel economy that you expect. So let's jump back to the interior after my little rant there. I want to talk about how it's laid out because I really do like it. It's very functional. It's very flat, you know, kind of like what we see on the Jeep Wrangler. You know, you've got very little space between you and the front windshield, but I do feel you have more space than you do on the Wrangler. And I personally feel like I have more space in this vehicle. I'm in a good position. I have tons of headroom with this. You know, the roof is got the sound deadening material on it. I don't hear too much rattling, too much squeaking. So I mean, if there's the little bit that's there is really not supposed to be there, then it is already miles ahead of the Wrangler. But overall, the interior is functional. One thing I have noticed, it's always hard to tell, is it this specific vehicle or is it all the Broncos? But if you're listening to music, you can't have the bass on maximum, but even on half, with, you know, not too loud, you can still hear some significant rattling depending on what type of music's going on. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Don't know if it's an issue with just this vehicle, but small note there. But the Sync 4 infotainment system works great. You've got a lot of extra information in here. When you go into the features, you know, zone lighting, like we see on the new F-150. You've got towing information, driver assistance, and then if you go into the settings, you can go in and see a lot of the details that you get by buying the Bronco. If you go into four-wheel drive mode, go into the apps and start playing around with those trail info systems, you're gonna have a lot of data in there. I'm not taking it off-road, folks, so we're keeping it on-road. I don't get to play with that stuff because I want to save as much as I can, but you do have some options there. With the GOAT modes, right? We talked about that outside a little bit. You do have normal, eco, and sport mode. Sport mode will engage the 4x4 system. You also have slippery mode, mud and ruts, sand, Baja, if you're doing some desert or sand driving, there's some serious stuff. But yeah, like I said, I keep it pretty much in eco mode all the time. I want to save as much as I can. I know it's not possible. You've got the transfer case selector. It is electronic, which I like it. Who cares? You don't need to have an actual shifter to put it into the four-wheel drive or two-wheel drive mode you want. Just push the button. It's simple. Yeah, it's all functional. Everything's laid out well. I like it. It feels modern, but also rugged. You know, you feel like if you had to wipe everything down, you could do it. The controls up at the top with your differential locks and turning assists and the hazard buttons and stuff, that's pretty functional stuff. Nice, you know, rubberized buttons there. They can definitely get wet. And I know that this vehicle has done some off-roading because the previous custodian of it did do some. And, you know, you can tell that the interior has gone through some mud and dirt and stuff, and it's come out completely clean. Everything's pretty washable. So if you are buying this because you want to do off-roading, and I would imagine that's what you're buying this trim for, you should be in luck. You should be in business with this without any issues. As I mentioned, I would go for one of the non-off-road trims, but even with all the suspension on this, the huge tires, the Sasquatch package, it rides really well. Not, you know, some of the SUVs that we do, like the crossovers and stuff, well, it's not super smooth, but for an off-roader, I mean, it's very close to the Land Rover Defender. I definitely prefer this over the Wrangler, and there's no doubt. I mean, like, if you guys were to ask me, if it was the same price, if the Wrangler was, you know, if I had to option at about $69,000, and that's how much money I had, 100% would buy the Bronco. The question, though, is if I had the money to afford the Defender, that's going to be the question. You know, obviously, when I say afford the Defender, I don't just mean I have a $90,000 check in my bank and I can go out and buy that. I mean, you know, I've got the money for maintenance and gas and all of that. Yeah, I probably would get the Defender over this, unless, you know, I don't really see a reason why not, just because the Defender is so good. I'm a little bit of a princess. I do like to be luxury oriented, but this thing has really nailed it. For me, I had very little expectations. I try to come into any vehicle without doing any, not research, but I don't look at other people's reviews. I don't really go back in time and see what the Broncos of the past had to offer, because realistically, I don't care. The idea is you're buying it in 2021. You want to see what this vehicle has to offer in today's world. Yes, it shares the name with the previous generation Broncos. And yeah, I can see this being a good heritage nod to the past when it comes to Ford's off-roader. But this is the new Bronco. This is setting the precedent for what Ford wants to do with this. And I really do like it. I think that they have done a fantastic job with this. And they haven't just made, something that looks kind of fun and can do some stuff. They have definitely spent the time and energy to make this a compelling argument not to buy a Jeep Wrangler. And like I said, I think it also can be a significant reason not to buy the Defender. It's so close in a lot of ways. You get a lot of capabilities with this. I can definitely see some people who might have been looking at that maybe coming over to this thing. But I do like it. I just, what else can I tell you? I mean, it follows exactly what I had kind of hoped this vehicle would do. It's got the latest and greatest of Ford's technology on here. Ride and interior is very good. And everybody that I've put in it has been very happy. The space on this is good. So great work, Ford. You guys definitely nailed it when it came to the revival of the Bronco. Now, I just hope you keep it. Please don't make it just for one generation. Make it for 4 years and then call it quits. I think that this deserves to live on and continue on and be a true competitor to the Wrangler. That is a popular vehicle, and I can see this taking away some sales from it. So if you have any questions about the new Ford Bronco, please let me know in the comments below. I do try to get back to everybody I can. Give a thumbs up to the video if you liked it, and also consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.